Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
Yeah, and you can go to work for was it T-Mobile or Sprint? Can you hear me now? Can you
Oh
hear me
yeah.
now?
Yeah, I could be that guy.
Farge, I can't find my headphone.
Oh,
Frickin'
they're freaking Pittsburgh colors. Sprint is Pittsburgh colors. Can't ever work there.
okay.
What's wrong with Pittsburgh colors? I mean, I think that you saw at least the backside of them last week.
Oh shit!
Oh
I
shit.
walked
Just,
into that one.
it was
Set
just
that right up.
just
Oh.
a little bit of a fucking slaughter.
Yeah, a
I
little
felt
bit.
bad. I felt bad.
Yeah, they did handle our third stringers pretty well.
Oh.
You have a first string. Come on, let's be serious.
Right? Yeah, right.
Hear me okay? Oh, is this where you tell us to stop groveling? I got you there. Look at that.
Please this. Forgive me that.
Yeah, it's like those miserable psalms. They're so depressing.
No, dude. I tried to start running again today. I want to.
Oh, nice.
Do Ironman again next year.
Nice.
Don't stop running and then try to start at my age. It sucks.
Or just start to begin with.
Yeah. It's like, I only made it 13 miles. Like, ugh.
No.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being a sprinter. I could still do the sprinting, but as far as getting a mile, that's terrible. That'll take a while.
Right there with you, Travis. My philosophy is I need to be just fast enough for just long enough.
Yep,
Right.
exactly. Yep.
The
Get a
Bears
little
can
cardio in.
work.
Just faster than the fattest guy you're with. Right?
Right.
Just a little bit.
Thank you for tuning in once again to the latest installment of the Construction Dorkcast. In this episode, we revisit the theme I Dork, or I am a dork. An earlier post has caused some confusion, and we hope that this episode brings some clarity. To help with this, we bring in Doug Smith of DSI and Travis O.T. Althouse from Revisto to talk about their perspectives as individuals at very different places in their careers on the movement, construction, and technology. Also, tune in at the end where I have moved a few of the outtakes, including our first official plea for sponsorship. This was a wide-ranging conversation that didn't end when the recording was off, so please remember to join in live next time.
All right. Well, we are live for episode 12 of the Construction Dorks. I am Dork. And that's all I'm going to say until we get to Travis Voss. Trent, why don't you introduce yourself today? Tell us what you're drinking, where you're coming from, and I love that picture behind you.
Yeah, got the old iRobot going on, me and Jonathan. So still coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana. And today I am drinking from a little brewery just down the street. You can tell they got their own little paper labels they put on the cans, but this is a Hop Supremacy. It is a double dry hopped East Coast IPA from a little place called Deviate. And I love that joint. You go in there and they're playing like Tool. It's one of those you know the joint, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling it right now. I was in one in Grand Junction just like that this weekend, like called Haystack, I think it was, and same thing, just blasting good tunes and
yeah, I dig it.
Drinks. Yeah. All right, well, Jonathan Marsh, I'm gonna go robot to robot here.
Okay, so I'm drinking a local too. Altered States. This is her B-side bourbon. Altered States, a local brewery, and usually local breweries don't get it right for like so much. Like they're okay. This place is awesome. And I'm drinking a sour because it makes a great whiskey sour, but they make an awesome bourbon. They make an awesome gin and vodka and everything else. And if you were in PA during the initial lockdown, we did not have liquor stores, but what we did have is we did had Altered States Brewing. So like everybody and their brother had 100% Altered States in their house. And they're a really good brewery, really cool guys. If you go there to pick up anything, you're going to be there for 30 minutes talking to them about what they just made. They're like, oh, we made this gin. You got to try this gin. No, wait, you got to try this. You got to try that. By the time I left, I had 12 shots worth of samples. Yeah. but great place. And Travis, you need to go get some Altered States too, man.
I'll check it out.
That would be OT Travis for the listeners at home. And we'll get to OT Travis in a minute here. But Travis Voss, we'll round it out. What you got today?
Yeah, I'm still here in Northern Illinois. I am, we aren't officially sponsored yet, but we're pushing hard for a Flaviar sponsorship. So I bought this. This is Rabbit Hole whiskey from Louisville, Kentucky. This is their Derringer. It's a bourbon whiskey finished in sherry casks. So it's got a little bit of like a berry to it, a berry flavor to it. That's pretty interesting. So I'm pretty happy that one. I have to thank my co-host here, Jeff Sample, for jumping on my invitation. I get a free bottle of whiskey out of that, so can't go wrong there.
Well, if you didn't catch that, that's Flaviar, and we're not sponsored. However, we're not against it, just in case you were listening at home. Well, OT Travis, we might go from Travis to Travis. We have the OG Travis, and now we have the OT Travis. So Travis, all tell us, well, I just introduced you, but go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're coming from, what you're drinking.
Yeah, so I'm other Travis. I'll allow it. I like it. Gotta distinguish them. But I'm coming from Erie, PA also. Nice little spot here in Pennsylvania up on the lake. And because of that, I'm drinking one of America's oldest brewery, period.
Yeah.
Out of PA also.
That's good.
It is America's oldest continually operating brewery because during Prohibition, they brewed root beer out the front and beer straight out the back.
Interesting. There you go.
And if you want any more facts on Yingling, I can tell you all you want to know. I can guarantee you that.
Big fun fact, the second oldest brewery is 30 minutes north of me in Monroe, Wisconsin.
Nice.
They do Midhouse is the current name, but they've been brewing continuously too. So
awesome.
They do a lot of contract brewing, so they'll brew stuff for like I just lost it, Guam. And since Guam can't take shipments, you can get Guam beer really cheap in Monroe, Wisconsin.
Interesting.
Nice.
Well, and if you didn't notice, Travis, they just signed a deal with Coors to start producing Yingling across the country in new batches and new places. So up here in Colorado, we are really looking forward to some fresh Yingling.
Nice.
Because I have to bootleg it in every once in a while.
Right.
And it gets old when you do that.
You take it for granted when you get it like normally, just like Coors. You go out there, Coors is different out of the tap out in Colorado. You take it for granted.
Well, we had the OG Travis, the OT Travis, and now we have just the straight up OG Doug Smith joining us. Doug, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell us where you're coming from and what you might be drinking today.
Well, I'm a little bit boring because I just got out of a 3-hour coordination meeting. So I am drinking ice water from a Rudy's barbecue cup. And everybody knows in Texas, we love our barbecue. And they're somewhat of a chain, but they're also quite good. Austin, Texas, the weather's changing. It's beautiful right now. It's a fantastic time of year. So I'm ready to get out and drink some beer.
Awesome. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're coming for those that don't know you? A lot I know that are tuning in right now. I'm getting texts from DJ Phipps right now. So tell everybody where you're working from and who you work for and kind of a little bit about you.
Well, I work for Dynamic Systems. I've been here since 1988. And that's the day we started business. I was standing in line when we signed our first employment checks and started the company. Started out as a apprentice in the field, digging ditches. And one day I was complaining that why can't somebody draw this stuff and make it fit? And the guy says, you think you can do better? And I said, anybody could do better. And he handed me the pencil and he said, you're the detailer. And so that was the beginning of my detailing career, and went from there to CAD, went from CAD into 3D into a side company, started a 3D design company, went and sold that, came back to DSI. And about 2 years ago, my boss came and said, you need to slow down. What do you want to do that makes you excited? And I said, technology. And we created our own technology group, and I kicked it off, and here we are.
Well, that is awesome. That's like the hero story in the industry right now. I mean, that's, I know there's a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people about, it probably wasn't well thought through that you would actually know how to draw constructible things. But
Yeah.
because you came from digging ditches and doing those things, you were able to draw constructible things, which is a big topic right now.
Well, we're seeing a lot of the construction companies are starting to lean towards technology, the whole technologist profile in the company, and we didn't have one. We were just status quo. The guys don't like change. That's one of our biggest issues is they get used to something, they want to stick with it. You know, they say, why are we upgrading from Windows 95? It works great. I know how to do everything. It's like, we have to. They're finally cutting it off. We got to upgrade. And they just don't like change. So when we're trying to bring new processes in and things like that, we try to bring robotic layout and we do this and that and everything, and it scares the heck out of them. And once we get them involved in it, they really start to pick it up and they see how effective it is in the field and they just start to love it. And one of the things we brought up earlier was the young versus old condition out there where we think the old guys aren't going to get it. The scare tactic is these guys are all going to quit because you can't force them to draw with this new 3D tool. And as soon as they get in there and they find out it's cool and it's fun, it's exciting, it's new, they all pick it up and they take off. And we haven't had a single negative issue yet. It's just been fantastic.
Mhm.
That is why we brought you on, Doug. That monologue in and of itself, man. We didn't even have to get into the show. That was perfect. And so we're
DJ.
Yeah, that's from DJ. Hey, DJ, that was for you, buddy. You know, an original dork over there. So, but before we dive all the way in and take all the questions, because they're starting to come in already, I wanted Travis Voss to kind of explain, because this all came out of a post that Travis made that I think confused a few people. But that was kind of the intent, right, Travis? So I'll let you kind of take it from there.
Yeah, the post was meant to provoke a little bit of thought and to get people to maybe be a little introspective. You know, I think that because we jumped on the Construction Dorks name that came from DJ, you know, we keep throwing it back to DJ there, and then we had our initial episode and we kind of talked about who the original people were. In I think there's a little confusion out there again about, you know, who are the dorks? Who are the people in this movement? And yes, we took the moniker and we created a podcast about it, and we have a website. But the whole purpose of the post was to point out the fact that we are not the construction dorks. Like, it does not end with the four of us, or even end with the guests that we have on the podcast. Like, what the whole post was supposed to be about was, to borrow another cliche, let your freak flag fly, right? Get out there, declare yourself as if you're a construction technologist, if you're an apprentice or a journeyman that just loves to get involved with the technology, like, promote that. Like, we have a lot of people that are the Dougs of the world that have been doing it for a long time, or the Travises of the world that are just kind of starting off, that should be promoted, that we need to know about as a community to network and prop each other up, because it's going to take a massive lift from an entire community, a whole village of us trying to do this to actually shove the industry forward. And that was the whole impetus of the original post was, get out there, figure out a way to kind of declare your own dorkness on some sort of social media, Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, and then share that back with us so that we can then in turn promote you, and hopefully we can kind of tie this network together even more.
I mean, that's really well said, Travis. And when we redid the post this time around, I came in behind and kind of added a few things to it. Oh, by the way, I never even said I'm drinking Wyoming whiskey thanks to Flaviar today. I am drinking today. I went for a run before this, so I am not faking. I am having one with everybody today, especially this group. Given where this whole thing came from, right? If you remember the origin story, this all came from the watering holes after our favorite conferences, or in the hallways, or in coffee shops in the morning, kind of thing. And we wanted to be free. In those places, we all got to drop what I like to call our colors. It's the way that, wherever you work, if you work for a construction company, if you work for a GC, if you work for a trade, if you work for a software company, there's a lot of things you can't do in a lot of places. And for me, that's what the Construction Dorks offers, right? It offers an opportunity for us to all take off the colors, because there's this idea that when I say that too, that I'm against that, and I'm not. Like, I think as companies grow, competition is part of the thing, and you know, inviting competition in your backyard is pretty hard to do. Some people can do it, some people can't do it, but it's not ever going to be at the scale that we want it to be. And I think Travis Voss and I were having an offline conversation about this. It would be great that if this movement could get far enough, there was a big enough gathering where we could all drop the colors at the door. There is nobody who's paying us for any of it. And it is truly just about all of our minds coming together. And we don't all agree. I mean, we love to sit in the background and argue with each other. If you're in those watering holes, you might think we're going to fight each other sometimes. And it's, you know, then you start listening, and you're like, is he talking about modeling right now? And is he talking about unity right now? And they're like, gonna go to blows. But that's the passion that we have. And that passion deserves a place as a crowdsourced movement. So while we've taken this moniker to do this thing, none of us here, you know, the four of us that run the Dorkcast, feel as though we own this. We feel as though every time we load an episode to the show, talk on the show, that we're representing this crowdsourced movement. And to me, that's really important, because it is the only way we're going to truly have an impact. No one can throw a stone at, because it didn't come from any angle. There was no ulterior motive to it. Except maybe free liquor. Did I say Flavier?
Yeah, Flavier.
If I get that in like 10 times, I'm going to get no. But no, that was what I wanted, and we did. We wanted to talk about it because Doug, you kind of have really blazed the trail with what you've done and been successful, basically off of a time before technology. Although I think the pencil at the time, who knows, maybe that was considered the next in tech, right? And then it was. You know, it was a plan table, and then it was 2D plans, and then it was PDFs, and, you know, who knows? So, but Travis Althouse, being new in the industry and hearing kind of us talk about that, how do you feel about, you know, becoming a dork, and what does it mean to you? You know, you've crossed the line over too. I mean, you've gone from industry to technology. So talk about that path and how you feel about I Am Dork.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about me and kind of my past with getting into construction technology in general. So I actually have a degree in construction management. So I learned kind of that side of it. I was told I should be PMing and stuff, but I had a passion for design, and I actually started in Revit. So when I started in Revit for a construction company, it was like overkill for what we needed. But I realized all these parameters, all these parts and pieces, if I could get it right, you know, I could do the estimating, I could do the modeling. Obviously, I was doing renderings and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting thing to hear, like Doug has seen people like that. John actually hired me at one point, and I might have froze up there for a second.
You're good.
Oh, you're good.
Oh, you're good.
But John, did I freeze up for a second?
Yeah,
just a second, but you're good. Go for it.
Yeah, John actually found me and got a person that, you know, started in Revit. And I think what I started finding really rapidly is that even with all this fancy stuff, even with all this technology, I needed those guys who have installed it before to guide me. I needed them to say, you know, the 3 weld thing, we were talking about 3 out of 1,000 welds being wrong where they had to cut it. I mean, sometimes you get ripped to shreds over that. And when you're really passionate about what you do, you're hard on yourself. So the thing that I really like about the technology is that it's actually opening a door for newer people in the industry to step up, gain that trade knowledge, and kind of lead these jobs like BIM should. You know, VDC and BIM should always be seen as a helpful thing, not a detriment. So from my perspective, it's been really cool. I'm really glad that people are embracing it. I've kind of seen the hump, you know, I can't imagine it being completely frowned upon. I came in when BIM was starting to be embraced. But I've definitely had fun with it.
I had a question along those lines for Doug, because he was saying, you know, it is bringing in a lot of younger people. And I think that we talk about like the young dorks, but one of the things that happened a couple times, and it's happened more since I've gone out in consulting, is I'm meeting some older people that are saying, I'm not perfect with the technology, but I'm passionate about it. And I know for both of you, Doug and Travis, I mean, Travis, you travel around and see a lot of people, so you get a lot of exposure to it. But Doug, have you started to see some of the older people say, listen, I am getting a little bit more confident with this tech. I'd like to be, I mean, what's the deal? Do we have some old dorks out there that have been putting up pipe for a long time and look at some of the tech and just go, screw it, this is too interesting, I'm coming in? Are you seeing that? Because I feel like we need more older dorks that have the experience in the industry.
I think what we're seeing is they're dorks and don't know it. They get in there, they're
Dorks
scared
don't
to
know it.
death. They're comfortable. They got a comfort zone with the AutoCADs or with the hand sketching or with their little isometrics, and they're extremely at home with that stuff. And you say, hey, we're going to go to 3D Revit, and they said, I'll never do it. There's no way. I'll never learn that stuff. It's too complex. Next thing you know, they're saying this thing is great, and they're loving it, and they're going into the collision detection. They're doing all that kind of stuff, and they get embedded in it, and then they can't get away from it. So the guys that want to do it, they do it. The guys that just want to complain about it, most of them we pull them along anyway. But we've lost very few as our transition from AutoCAD to Revit. I think that's the industry transition now anyway. We only lost one guy out of 80. So and he just said it's time to retire. He was old and ready, so he went away, and everybody else made the jump. So they have it in them. They just don't know it sometimes.
I think that's a great point. I think that too often we throw those older people kind of to the side and say that, yeah, well, we'll be okay, but except for Doug. Doug's too old. Doug's set in his
Probably
ways.
right.
I don't think we give him enough credit.
That's a good point. My first job out of college for a construction company, like I said, I was doing renderings and stuff, and they almost like pinned me as like a threat to them. Like this guy is going to come in and the new technology is going to take over that job. So instead of them embracing or adapting, they thought like, we got to shut him down, or we got to shut this down. This Revit thing can't happen. We'll be out of job, which I think is an interesting perspective to take. I think everybody probably agrees that's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, but Travis, I was traveling around as much as I have and talking to leadership. I think I've pinpointed that, and it didn't dawn on me until I was watching Chad Pearson this week. If you guys haven't seen Chad, the Plexus Patriot, you got to follow him on YouTube. He's wild. But he talks about this whole thing around VUCA, which is basically putting people into their limbic system, is when you scare them, right? So if we throw technology, if we let an OT, Travis, come in and just throw some things at the wall, it scares people because they don't understand. So when they see a threat, they immediately go into their limbic brain and they can't start thinking. But if leadership has the wherewithal to say, listen, we're bringing this guy in, and what we want to do is we want to help you be more effective so that you can impact the way we build better.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you're hitting them in a spot where they're not threatened.
Yeah.
And you're also pulling a little cord at how many of those guys in the field would take a bullet for the man or woman standing next to them, right? And they'll literally like catch them if they're going to fall. That's the trust they have in each other. And so if you play on that, it's really how we're playing on their brains. We're putting them into that position. And I think, maybe Doug just didn't have that, limbic jump. So he was just like, pencil, sure, I got it. No worries. But really, it's a bigger leap when you're talking about someone who is looking at paper and the way they've done it for a long time, and you put them into that different spot in their brain. And I think that goes to leadership and communication. And Doug, I can imagine from your demeanor, that's probably why you guys aren't experiencing loss. That's probably how you go about technology, is not about flashy toys. It's about helping your field labor do better, right? Helping the organization do better.
Our goal is to actually, I use this analogy about Huckleberry Finn. We're over there painting the fence, and we want to make them take that brush away because they think it's going to be fun. They're going to take our job and want to do it themselves. That's the kind of way we sell everything we do. We're implementing a new field production software right now, and the first thing we hear is, you're going to take my job. If that does this, you're not going to need me anymore. And I said, that's wrong. It's totally wrong. You're going to go back to what you used to do before you got bogged down with all the paperwork and reports. And estimates and all this stuff that's bogging you down and keeping you away from your real job, we're going to put you back in that role. And he's like, really? And I said, absolutely. And we're going to do it with technology. And it happens every time. They roll in and they say, this is the best. And it works every time. You just got to sell it right. You don't force it on them. You bring them with you.
Well, I've been doing some leadership training through a local community college, and that's one of the things that's really resonated with me lately. Is they talk about different leadership models and stuff, and one aspect is to inspire the vision, right? I don't think that, even me personally, I don't think I always do a great job of inspiring the total vision of what we're trying to do. But once you kind of can sell them, to use your word, Doug, is sell them on the overall vision of what we're trying to do, the little bits and pieces that go into it, and everybody's kind of task or job in that it becomes much easier for them to accept. Like, yeah, if I have to check this one box on the form, it doesn't really change my job too much, but the whole vision, the whole company kind of gets the additional information based on that. That's really key, and that's something I like I said, on my own, I kind of fail to do that. I have an idea in my mind of how everything should flow together, but I don't really portray that idea very well.
Right. Yeah, I think we all know that a little bit. I think that's the mad scientist thing. If I could steal one of John's,
It's not mine. That's
yeah,
that'd be let me see.
James
Sean McGuire's.
No, that's James M.
Oh,
Benham. Well,
Benham?
actually, no.
It's-
Sean McGuire gave it to Benham. Benham made the speech on it. So if we're going to origin stories, that's where it comes from.
Very nice. Yeah, I think that's a lot of why it's important that people are at different places, with technology and the trades type stuff. Like right now we're talking about different levels in BIM. What about like the older guys in the field that are used to building a certain way, that now all of a sudden have paperless models that they have to build off of, how do you respond to that?
Yeah. I remember that conversation at first when I was preaching to the guys, like, hey man, my goal is 2-3 years from now, I'm going to be giving you as minimal amount of paper as possible. And 2.5-3 years ago, there's no way, like, this is the fastest way, you'll never be able to do that. And I mean, now I see we're producing half the drawings we used to. We've got everybody out there utilizing models. It was impossible. And those same people are now, no, like, when are you going to update my model? Like, we're trying to do, so
I think my favorite transition is the guy who really dislikes it. And it's very similar to what Doug said. When they finally get to use it, as soon as they use it and are confident, they are the promoter. We had a couple foremen that were very, very negative. And, they're negative the first job. And then the second job, we're like, well, we got a lot going on right now. We're not going to be able to get to their job. They're like, whoa, wait. What do you mean you're not going to get to my job?
Yeah.
I need some of this.
Yeah.
Or they see what the other guy's doing and they're like, wait, what?
Yep. And I think it's great because if you're addressing their real problem, they're instant. They're right away. Okay, we know what we want. And I took a lot away from those conversations too. Like they would say, well, we just need this. And those were the things that were really helpful to them. And those were the things we concentrated on. But like Doug said, it was like there seems to be, and even what you said, Jeff, there seems to be an initial gut reaction that is, hold on, I don't necessarily want to change things. And then as soon as they're used to it, it can become the other way in a huge way. I would say at times there are a lot of people out there that sort of get spoiled by the whole process. I know, Trent, you were talking about that earlier. We get to the point where we're doing so much that when we can't do everything, it gets to be problematic.
Right.
But so
when it works, it works, right? I mean,
absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting if you strip down what technology is to construction, like the real nitty gritty of what it is, it's more of a direct access to information. That's really all it is, whether
it's communication. It's
100%.
It always comes back to communication.
Yep.
What's the most efficient way to communicate design to installation? I mean,
Is that a piece of paper?
Right.
No, it isn't.
Yep.
No.
It used to be, right?
When I told the guys we were going paperless, you should have seen how big their eyes got. It says, we'll never do it. We're not doing that.
I've seen it.
Now, why are you giving me a piece of paper?
Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But that goes to John's point. It's once they get to use it, once you get them the 18-inch fancy iPad, and let them try it and then realize that, hey, now that I have this smart digital piece of paper, I can talk right to that BIM guy and make sure that this is always perfect. There's no turning back at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
Up to date.
But you
wanna
can sell it
catch
to them.
something.
That's like
I
Doug
wanna-
said.
I want to catch something from the notes here because this is about, this I Am Dork is all about the dorks that are joining us as well on the side. And Joshua Ward brings up something really, really interesting. And I think, Doug, you're doing this. I just don't think it's intentional, or maybe it is intentional. I'm not going to actually assume this here, but he says the struggle with the sell is when you can't prove it. You fail on the prove. You're back to square one, numero uno, and no matter how well you think it will work, know your user, prove it to them, and then sell it. And I think when I say I think you're doing it, I think that's because you're kind of the practitioner prover to yourself before you turn and sell to the company. Is that what you're doing in the process? Is that how you go about it? Because I think, Joshua, you're right. If I was to think something was possible, given that I can't model, I can't build, I'm not that guy, right? I'm your IT dork. I come from a different angle. I always have to go to you or somebody else and say, okay, this is my thought, but will it work? Are you kind of going through that, I don't know what you call it, alpha phase yourself and then selling it? Is that how that's working?
What we do is we go by the motto is you've only got one chance to make a first impression. So we vet everything out 100% before we ever take it to the field. And the reason is if it fails, they'll never look at it again. They're not interested in helping fix the problem. They want a solution handed to them. And so we have to make sure that solution works. It's user friendly. It's very well described and written out. We make videos of this is how you do this and this is how you do that. And it's got to be very straightforward. And once it is, they'll run with it.
And I think that's a great point. I mean, I think that, like Jeff said, I am not the guy from construction. So, but I can see something. I think something's a good idea, and I think you have to rely on your network. And when I say network, I don't just mean like the people on this call or the other dorks. Like you have a network inside of your own company, and most of those guys are more than happy to sit down with you and kind of let you pick their brain, kind of figure out what is a good idea. But for the most part, we're in an industry where we're technologists where we're expected to fail. We're expected to fail fast. But those guys in the field, they can't fail, right? There's no, yeah, I didn't do so well in that building today. That's not. So when you bring something to them, like, yeah, they're happy to test something out and give their thoughts. But if you're going to give them something that is, what you're hoping to be operational ready, it better be wired tight.
If it burns their man hours, they will never. Yeah, there's no way. Those are real world dollars out there. I mean,
technology stops when you start losing money. They will shut you down.
Absolutely.
So fast.
And that's where the rubber meets the road, is out in the field. I mean, there's no way they won't. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, when you have a hiccup in your new process, I mean, we're sweating and we're staying up all night. It's like, we got to get this running by tomorrow morning when they show up. It's gotta be running.
Has to. You have no choice.
No
and
choice.
I've had nights like that. Many of them.
Yep.
Well,
because I'm just one guy. That's just one revenue stream.
That's right.
Well, I'll pose this question then to both Doug and Travis, because you're coming at it from different levels of experience and whatnot. But what do you do when your idea sinks? How do you regain that kind of political capital? How do you regain that momentum to keep people? Because let's face it, I mean, Jeff, you do a little bit more lately, but there's 2,600 different solutions out there now, and not to mention 3,000.
They went over 3.
So there's 3,000 different solutions, and that doesn't even the shit that we make up on our own, right? That doesn't include the crap that.
Well, it doesn't include Microsoft. It doesn't include all the other ancillary things that everybody uses, Lucid Chart, other things.
Yeah. Or
these are
pure, like the little
pure. When you check the box, what industry, it says construction.
So we all think that we're really smart, right? Most of us, and that we have the answer. So we get our little crystal ball together, and we protect it, and we try to whatever. What do you do when you put that out there and it doesn't go well? I mean, because we just talked about proving it and selling it and everything like that, and that's obviously very valuable, but failure is part of this too.
Right. Well, the first thing that I tended to do if I got pushback or something is evaluating it, like how I'm approaching it. If I'm selling it right, that's the low hanging fruit. But more importantly, if it's going to totally fail, if that's it, and I got to find a different route, I go back to the root of the problem. Like in my case, a big issue I was having was, I didn't know what like a street elbow was. Came from an engineering firm. I started laying out spools. Everything was like 3 inches off because I was using street elbows and didn't know what it was. So the root of that problem was that like either my exposure to it was off, or I needed a direct line to the field, for them to show me, take a picture and say, here's the answer, So if a solution that's going to promise to work doesn't work, I typically go back to the problem, and then I like what you guys used about the dorks. You crowdsource it, you go to your network and say, hey, this is what's happening. I keep messing these up. I don't know how to weld. What do you guys suggest? Try to get to the root of that problem. That's how I approach it myself.
And I think our approach has been overly cautious. We go into it real slow. We take our time. We do our research. We talk to our peer partners in the industry. We try to make good decisions. Typically, we don't get out there on the ragged edge doing things that are straight out of the box. We have a few times, but when we do that, we take our time to make sure that before we launch this thing, that we're comfortable with it, that it will succeed. Once again, if it fails the first time, you're done. We've had a few things, document control systems that we've enacted that did not work 100% because we got in them early, and we had to wait for them to grow into our process where it would fulfill all of our needs. And after a while, it actually did. And we kept saying, just wait, it's coming. And sometimes you get tired of waiting, but we actually waited them out, and we got our parts working and got the thing functioning. And now it's a working system. So we've had a lot of luck with that. We had very few failures to date. I've crossed my fingers here and knock on wood and everything else, but so far it's been pretty good. We haven't had very many failures.
And I'll point to you again, Doug. We won't use names here, but you've backed some different things out there. I've seen you back that you don't adopt on your own. You don't adopt internally 3 years later while you're still kind of promoting them, because you see the vision, right? But that is your guys' approach. There is you're not gonna bring it to the shop or the field until you feel it's fully baked, even if you think it's a great idea.
Oh yeah. Well, guess what? You get fired. And I'll be on the road looking for a job. We just want to perform. We want to do the best for our company, and we're always focused on the bottom line. That's making money, and our money's made in the field. So we always want to make sure that we supply the field with the best tool. And if that means waiting 2 years or 3 years, I've sat in multiple presidents' meetings where we had all the executives in the company in one room. And I say, hey, here's this new product that we've been working on for 2 years. And they said, why aren't we using it yet? I said, it's not ready. It's just not ready. When it's ready, I'll tell you, and then we'll launch. And they didn't like hearing that. But you know what? 2 years later, when it was ready and we did launch and it was successful, now everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So just don't let them push you around.
I was going to piggyback Doug, I guess, this is kind of coming from DJ, but what's the metric you use for that success out in the field? I mean,
all numbers.
Is it all about dollars, or do you have field? I mean, are the guys in the field weighing in on what it's doing to them day to day, or is it really just come down to man hours and dollar signs?
Well, be real honest with you. When it boils down to man hours and dollar signs, the big guys hear about it. When it's just people's attitudes, it kind of stays on the lower end, stays down at the 100-foot level. But that's good because they all give feedback and they start telling their superintendents and their foremen, hey, this stuff is working. It's really easy to use. This stuff it's very fluid and it fits our workflow very well. Once they start getting into the groove of this thing, then it starts showing itself in numbers. And once the numbers start hitting the books, the upper management sees that and says, "What's going on? Why are we trending up here? The numbers are looking a lot better than they have been. We're saving money on this and that and the other thing." Once that happens, people start asking questions, and you can jump in and say, "Well, I think I got an idea why."
So you think there's just a direct correlation no matter what? I mean,
Absolutely.
So
if there isn't, why did we do it? I mean, bottom line is we're out there making money. We have to perform. And if we put out a tool just to put out a tool, you didn't do your job. It needs to bring something to the company.
How do you get the backing, like in that 2 years that you're vetting something out? If you're like, are you just trying it in small samples on live projects? Like, is it all the personnel, you trust a specific crew or something, or?
We do a little of both. We do it all in-house in our detailing group first. And we basically just shadow a project and do it 2 different ways.
Oh,
and work it through. And then once it gets through, we'll pick a job, typically a small one, so we don't have that much exposure on it. And we'll pick that job and we'll work with them and walk through them hand in hand and make sure they don't ever make a misstep. And if they've got an idea along the way, we'll change. And once they feel comfortable with it, we'll get a bigger job, and then we'll start rolling it out and see if we get feedback from bigger groups.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's not a lot of companies out there that are willing to kind of eat the cost of running processes in parallel.
Yeah,
there aren't. No.
But you'll eat it big time if you roll it out unready, right?
That's true.
Absolutely.
Do you know how many clients I had to teach that on estimating when we were trying to switch out estimating systems? It's like there's no 2 ways.
Yeah.
Whether the way you were doing it or not is physically kind of like a process broken versus actually physically, because it's not broken if you're estimating jobs and you're making money. But it's like that's one risk you can't take. Like you have to take an extra estimator, and you got to estimate the old way and the new way. And if they don't match up within cents, then you got to go back and figure out why, because that is if you were to switch over, just and one job, bye-bye, there you go. I mean, that's the whole thing.
In contracting,
one job can be
it does exactly. I mean,
Amen.
You start over about every project. It is.
Yeah.
Because guess what? No matter how bad it gets, you still have to finish it. It doesn't end. It doesn't. There's no mercy.
Never thrown that switch like that and just said slam it and okay, we're on it right now. Let's go. That scares me to death.
Yeah. There's no 10-run rule, right? I mean,
you're going down with the ship.
Exactly.
I'm curious, Doug. So something I see often is something where, like, we're talking about a big project. Like, you can laugh and say, as an individual, there are ways out of a project. You can leave the company, then you get out of it. But as a company, you can't get out of it. So what if like a owner, GC, somebody big on the job is requiring you to use a tech that maybe you guys already know isn't going to work for you or something else? How do you make it happen?
We've done that quite a bit, be it a management software or design software or whatever, every time the RFI processes are different on every job and you have to fold into their system. But when you have to change design softwares like Pro-E or a MicroStation or something like that, we actually do it. It's hard, it's painful. Most of the stuff you can't just convert, and do it in your old fashioned comfortable mode and convert it. So we'll train 3 or 4 guys and we'll put them on that job to do it that way. We try to convince them away from that, saying that's not the way it's most efficient for you. Right. Because when we buy a job like that, we try to use our efficiency to help the client and save them money. And if we're having to do it outside of our comfort zone, we can't do that. But we try to convince them to use the standard methods.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that as specialty contractors, all of us on this call right now are in that realm, like tend to back to the doing it both ways, right? You're going to do it your own way. You're going to give the deliverable in the way whatever the project requires, right?
Unless there's something.
I mean, there are.
But you got to be ready for that, right? Yeah.
And that's the thing too with tech that I think is funny. Like, your estimators should honestly at least be aware of this stuff, know the differences between these different software solutions, especially Revit and CAD. I think a lot of people know now.
The sales guy.
Yeah.
You know what?
Right.
Oh, Revit 5D, we're doing it. No problem. We'll take care of it. It's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Well,
just know.
What did you do?
What have
Now
you
we're
done?
fortunate, and I always learn from Doug when I talk to Doug, because I'm in a similar role as him, but he's been doing this way longer than me, and he's doing it for a company way larger than mine, right? So I'd be an idiot not to listen to what he says. But yeah, that's how we treated it North. Is, I mean, the estimators are talking to me on every project when we bid it. I mean, somebody's got to look into those specs and make sure we're not going to get burned somewhere. I mean, that's a big part of it.
Yep. And it's typically not the new designer you just hired, that's they're probably not the best one.
We have a review every estimate. Somebody that speaks a language, somebody from the design group gets in there and looks through the BIM execution plan and makes sure that all those things in there that we can actually meet without having to do something new. We may have to buy software to perform on a job. So we want to know that going in, and we put that cost into it. But it's not only software, but it's training and
time.
Uptime.
It brings up a good point in the chat. I mean, when we talk about means and methods, I think most of us talk about how we're getting the pipe and the duct in the air, right? But it's not just that. It is the software. It is the technology platforms that we all have to exist on. And some of these contracts right now are dictating means and methods that include that stuff that is maybe not the most efficient for the different partners in the job.
Yeah. Like I drew it in Revit 2020. Well, contract said you need it in 19.
Yeah.
Methods, my friend. What do you
Sorry.
Yeah.
A lot of the times also the clients that are requesting specialized technology don't know what they're really requesting,
right?
And really need help and sort of shepherded through the technologies they're asking for. We have clients asking for 500 level drawings that really don't need the models. Sorry, 500 level models don't need that. You have drawings being requested by people for specific review that could be easily reviewed in the model. And I think part of the being a technologist in any of our roles is explaining it to them, like what really has value to you as a owner, and what are you going to pay us for doing that's going to have no value for you down the road. And I think that's tough. But I have a question for you, Doug, because it's something that comes up a lot, especially with the larger companies. When I talk to them about their technology risk, larger companies seem to have enough budget to sort of say, we're going to take this much risk in technology. We're going to buy this technology. We're going to vet it for 2 years. We're going to really understand the money and the risk that we're putting behind each piece of technology. And then you have a lot of dorks right now that are in companies that are not going to have the manpower or finance to sort of vet products at that level, and are often in the situation where they're going to get pushed into this stuff before they've had a chance to do that, just from their sort of size. Do you have any thoughts on what the smaller contractors can do that don't have the money or the departments to put behind that? I mean, I will tell you that I was a VDC head, and when I heard there was such a thing as a construction technologist, I was like, really? That's like a position? Like you could do that? Just that? That's something you could just do? Like I don't have to run VDC, NPM, and estimate, and not all of those at once, just one thing, So what's your advice for the smaller companies? I know you've worked with them too. So,
well, I'll tell you that we as a company, I like to call us the good old boys. We're kind of old school, and we don't really embrace technology as you would think. Some companies like move forward towards technology on purpose. We kind of end up there by accident sometimes. And the detailing group leads that charge. I mean, we're out there on the front lines. We're seeing the things. We go to the conferences and we understand what's coming up and what's coming up in the industry, and we try to pull the company towards that. We don't have budget set aside. We don't go with an ROI and sell the boss that says, I think in 2 years we can make this much back. Being that they're a good old boy, I trust your decisions. I go in there and I say, I want to try this out. It's going to cost $50,000. And they said, I think it's a good idea. Let's go for it. They haven't ever said no, because we always go in with enthusiastic ideas that said, it's going to do this and this and this and this, and we probably oversell a little bit. When we went to digital layout, it blew their socks off when we told them how much it was going to cost. That first unit was $46,000. And they were saying, you're crazy. And I said, but we can make 100 the first time we use it. Really? So we bought it, we used it, we made 100. It was like, wow. And now we own 37 of these units. It's like they go into every job.
I don't know about the rest of the dorks there, but Doug, that you kind of sound like Johnny Cash. He wore black because, well, that's all he had in his closet. We don't sell tech, we don't do tech, but we just do that. I sing this way because, well, that's the way I sing. No, I think there's a little bit more to it in there. I just don't. I just don't think you want to give yourself credit for that secret sauce. And I know a lot of people that look to you for learning how you went about that.
Well, I think that DJ
I had to call it out
in the chat is there's a proven track record, right? I mean,
I was just going to say that
Doug's earned some of that political capital to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm pretty darn smart. Got this idea.
Never said that.
I bet you he hasn't.
We're all saying that for you.
I'm more practical.
We're saying
smart. I think I'm more practical than smart. I was in the field. I know what's going on. I know the work processes. I know every step of our business because I've been here so long and I've done it for a long time. So when I go in and I say we need to improve this piece, they believe it. Sure. And we focus on it and we improve it.
Well, I'll flip that over to OT then and say, conversely, as the new person who has these good ideas, you're in a different role now with software, but how do you do what Doug does? How do you try to sell those concepts without that background of experience?
The key to everything I've done since I left the engineering side and went into like the real world of building, the key to all of it is ask questions. I always preach, you don't know what you don't know. So if I ever have a tiny inkling of a question, John knows all about this. 7 p.m. Friday, we're stuck in the office. Hey, here's this crazy off the wall question, but now's the time to ask, and that's usually the key. Just ask, find the problems, listen to what the problems are. Don't go, oh, I have this idea. I know 2 people that have this problem. I have this great idea as a solution. I'm going to make everybody use it. And if they don't, they're going to feel, no, listen to everybody else. See, and there's a lot of technologies like Revit is one of those to me that has a lot of uses. Like if you're open to it as a construction company, like in my first role, they had me rendering in Revit. That's it. I was the render and Revit guy. I don't even know any of those people. How's that a thing, But that's what I love about it is all these tools have all different uses. It's just a matter of hearing, like, what are you missing? What's the low-hanging fruit? Yeah. And then start there, That's the simplest thing. And that goes back to what I said earlier, that if you fail, you're just going right back to your little drawing board of questions,
Yeah. So. I want to piggyback real quick on what OT just said. And that's, you never know what you're going to do, but at the end of the day, and I think Doug and everybody will agree with me that, the field is where the money is made and lost, right? So whatever they need, if they say that, hey, Travis, you need to learn how to produce this, and they can prove that that's going to make them more efficient, then I'm going to tell my guys, okay, well, we're doing that. I mean, we're going to make that because that's what's going to make money. So,
exactly.
Really cool.
The second key to that, if you're like taking ladder steps, the second key is documenting it. That's where like failure's fine, because as long as you're documenting it and you fail, you're probably going to look back and see like, oh crap, there was the obvious point where we probably should have went a different way, so you can reevaluate and maybe not totally like throw a process away, but learn how to implement it in a different way, maybe different teams or whatever,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's the takeaway, right? If you're not Doug and you know everything, then you ask questions.
Ask questions.
I had a quick question for OT, and it's really sort of a comment too. Is you're traveling to see all these companies, and they're not just MEP companies, and all of us here are very MEP focused. What is there any way that you can help those dorks find a home? Because you had talked about, you said, and I'm going to call you on it. You had said, when I have a problem, you know what I do is I hit my network and I say, listen, I don't know how to do this. Do you know how to do this? And I tend to do that all the time. Like I'm all the time going, I got everything else. I could probably figure this one thing out, but it's going to take me forever. Can I go and ask around in my network? And one of the big problems is the second I step out of MEP, it's like a desert of missing people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in your travels,
We
I'll
need
get
some
you a shirt that says
representation,
Construction Dorks. We'll get you some hats. We can have you get an additional tattoo, but please go out there and tell them, hey, you're a dork.
Next to Wing Mom.
Yeah, you got a spot? We will have it done before next week. It's no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of funny because I'm spoiled, and maybe this is my tiny little chance to put a plug in there, but I have a really good team of resources in my position now. You know, we're a software company, and I work for Revisto. I didn't say that earlier, but we have different team members where that's what we do. We get to share ideas. We get to say, and we're the dorks of all dorks, you know, like, oh my gosh, look at what this guy's doing over here. Look at what he's trying. Like, so it is beneficial to have a close knit network, but yeah, by all means, that's what the dorks overall in all levels, you know, engineer dorks, construction dorks, everybody needs to come together and know these problems.
I would say, Jonathan, if we had actually planned the episode at all, that would be kind of the thought to, you know, we're about 4 minutes away from when we normally end. That would be the overall thought that we were trying to do with the initial post was let's put that flag up, get that dork flag up. Let's identify the dorks that are, maybe there's a dork in contracts, in the legal side. Maybe there's a dork in the owner side. Maybe there's a dork in the engineer. How do we build that community, build that network? You know, we're in the Rona times where we're all digital anyway. Let's build that together so that when Travis has a question about XYZ, he can go to an engineer that he knows that he found, like, what the hell is a street elbow anyway? You know,
oh, you don't want to ask an engineer that.
No, right. Sorry, that's why I didn't the rolls wrong in my head.
Yep.
I think it also goes back to what Doug said in dorks that don't know they're dorks. You know, I mean, dorks that don't know it. That's what he said. And he said it perfectly with the Johnny Cash thing. And, but I think that's something that needs encouraged too, is to say, you know, we are starting to form a community. I don't know how many do you use fabrication, Doug? Yeah. Did you use fabrication parts? Do you know what ExtraCAD is? Okay, so like if you used fabrication and you were in MEP, you knew what ExtraCAD is. You probably still go there every once in a while when you get something
every
wrong.
morning just to make sure I'm up to date.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There was a forum that like I swear I think I learned 50% of the things I do off there, and I copy pasting from ExtraCAD was like half my job some days.
Mine was CAD clips. That guy had a really good Revit series on CAD clips.
Oh yeah, CAD clips is cool. And then who's the guy for programming? Just sorry, last door comment. Who's the Dynamo guy that
I know who you're talking about. Oh, he's actually from the Colorado area, right?
Really?
Yes, he's from the Colorado area. He will flat out teach you how to program.
Yeah. DJ said it. Bill Allen.
Bill Allen. Yes, thank you, Bill Allen.
I think it's a funny point as you're like naming people and experts. A lot of the problem that the dorks face is that those people aren't necessarily approachable, or you might be afraid to approach them. I think the important thing that you guys are doing is making it approachable. Like we're sitting here just drinking together, chatting. Like you said, it feels like we're at the bar, you know, hopefully everyone else is enjoying it. But I think that's the key. You guys are making it comfortable for people to talk about this and admit that, hey, I don't know what a street elbow is. That should be somewhat embarrassing. I mean, I know now, but
no, I think that you're the culmination of who you know, right? I mean, that's what your knowledge comes from.
Right.
Like, if I want to talk to somebody, and you know, I've got Jonathan, Travis, Jeff, all you guys. like-
and you all get 150 people, so choose wisely.
Yeah.
Because that's all you
Dunbar's
get, right?
number, right?
Dunbar's
Yeah.
number, yes.
Dunbar's number, man. You get 150, so choose
Well,
wisely.
and I'll let you guys on a little secret. You know, I come from the software development side. We've been doing this for years on Stack Overflow, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what ExtraCAD was from the programming side. Like every time I had a problem to solve when I was trying to figure out, you know, what's the best way for me to pull the data from SQL Server and offer it up on an API, guess what? I asked the question to Stack Overflow first. Why would I write my own code when I can copy and paste something from the internet? You know, and I think that, you know, and Travis, to your point, I think that, you know, the Bill Allens, the Kevin Allens, the Devin Youngs, the Trents, the Dougs, we all kind of feel like that these guys are the ones that are doing the presentations. And I think that, you know, Travis, maybe you're a little bit different, but those of us of a certain age, when you get used to seeing somebody on a stage, you think that they're a pedestal. I cannot promote them, or I cannot approach them. But
More like, whoa.
To do with the
Yeah.
but that's what we're trying to do with the movement is like, you know, Doug's just a guy. He drinks his Bud Light out of a glass just like anybody else, and
It's a cool glass.
it's a very cool.
Large glass.
Yes, it's a very large glass. But Travis, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, the Josh Bones of the world who are up there talking and you're blown away. And then you sit down with them and, you know, even Rob McKinney in the beginning. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here as a construction dork if I didn't walk up to Rob McKinney at the hotel bar outside of where he spoke, put a beer down and say, listen, man, I know you probably got a million people wanting to talk to you, but you're on to it. We should catch up and walk away. And like it, and I'll tell you, and if you ever admit this to McKinney, because I don't think he listens right now, he's too busy. I was sweating when I did that. Like I was like, this is a big move. That's a speaker guy, you know? And so, but I think that's what this movement was for too. Like, especially in this group, like, you know, Travis Voss, you're on stage all the time. Jonathan, you're on stage all the time. I'm on stage all the time. But ultimately, those are personas that we're using to help push the message out, because there's lots of people outside this dork space that need to hear it and need to understand what it is that we're trying to do. But ultimately, like, we are dork. I am dork. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. Every single solitary bit of information I have on construction comes from other people. Even when I worked at Gallegos, because I'm your IT dork, right? It's my job to learn what it is you're trying to do and then help you. And so that vulnerability, we have it on this side. And I guarantee you, if you're listening, you can ask that question. But I have one more question for both Travis and Doug, and this comes from Sal D'Ambrosia, who's not on with us today, but he listens in. And we had a conversation yesterday, and Sal and I were talking. He was really passionate about the struggles that he has with detailing and with BIM engineers who don't understand constructability, and how, you know, he did 25 years in the field and then came in, and that's, you know, he at first was looking over somebody's shoulder and trying to help them, and finally kicked him out of the seat and said, you tell me what keys to hit and I'll tell you how the hell this thing gets built, what the pitch is, that it needs this, that it needs that it needs a coupling here, that it needs that there. And so I want this in two parts. Like, how do you convince those folks that are aging out, right? Like, because this is hard work in the field, but there's a long pasture behind them to where they can be sitting in the chair and designing, and it's not as hard. So how do you maybe convince them to do that? And then how, Travis Althouse, somebody of your, you know, coming in early that has the skills in the tech, learn how to make it constructible? Like, how do we bridge that gap? And so, Doug, I want to start with you, because I think that my biggest fear, as long as I've been here now for 10 years in the industry, is that people like you, at least you're passing out your information, you know, you're open with that. But a lot of our foremen who are, and field workers who never have sat in front of the computer, are going to take what it takes to build buildings with them. How do we convince them that the pasture is green and that they can do it?
Well, we always bring the older gentlemen in here before they retire. I mean, they do get aged out there. They get broken down a little bit. This trade's hard on you. So when they get older, we bring them in the office as a company and we let them QC documents and we let them prepare documents. They'll go through and they'll match up the specs to the sheets and they'll write notes for the designers and kind of prepare things for those guys. And it brings their knowledge, because they'll say in this steam boiler hookup, you need to make sure you have a low point here and a drain here and a trap. And it'll teach those young guys how to design that stuff. And the next time they'll know on their own. They'll go back in QC and sit down with the designers and tell them where they messed up and what they should do to make it right. We typically bring our detailers in from the field. We have an apprenticeship program, so we'll go out there and we'll talk to our superintendents. Which one of these guys are showing promise? Which one's got that snap? They can see in 3D. They're figuring out problems. Let me have that guy. We bring him into the detailing office and we train him up. And we may use him for 5 years and he may decide he wants to be a superintendent. We send him back to the field, but we got 5 years of training out of him. And when he goes back to the field, he understands what our needs are and what our design does for him. So he's basically our arm in the field now. So he carries our needs out there. He carries our water too. He goes out there and he says, don't talk bad about those guys. They're doing their best with the information they got. So it's kind of covering both ends, and it protects ourselves completely, soup to nuts.
Yeah, that's crucial. That's because the big thing for somebody like me is I didn't know the questions to ask. I was terrified of the people who I wanted to ask. I've had a hammer. I worked in the field. I got the wrong hammer once and the guy threw the hammer at me. Like, you know, I don't want to talk to that guy and ask him how he's going to like nail that thing up. He already threw a hammer at me, you know? So from like my perspective, like I challenge those guys that are in those shoes. Like if you get annoyed by a younger person or somebody asking you questions, embrace it. Those are the best. Those are the best people. They care about what they do. They want to be better at what they do. You know, they're not just clocking in. And as far as from my perspective, what I learned, because design, you kind of have a lot of power. You wield a lot of power when you design everything for a company. The big thing is be humble. Understand that you probably know like 10% of stuff. Like, even if you've been doing it for 10, 15 years, you're probably still like, especially if you haven't been in the field that long, you're lacking, you know? So lean on those guys, try to pull that knowledge out, scrape and claw, annoy them as much as possible, and then just buy beers and apologize later.
There you go.
It's amazing what a $15 beer and a burger can really take care of when it comes to that.
Right.
They might not throw that hammer the next time, hey, Travis.
Well said, Travis. Very well said.
That's a great thought and kind of the theme that's been throughout the whole thing. DJ's brought up several times. He's worked with Doug before, so he's said tons of great things about the process in the chat. But field first, right? I mean, I think that for most of us, for almost all of us that you know the dozens of listeners or whatever we have that are now, like, I mean, the metal meets the road in the field. So we really need to kind of have that mindset, that field first, foreman first, like every whatever yard of asphalt, every hanger, every square foot of duct. I mean, that's where we make our biggest impacts. We really need to focus on that first.
Yeah.
And
I think Doug would agree with me.
we get people bogged down and worried about making pretty drawings, and we're not making pretty drawings. I tell my guys all the time, I don't care if you spell the word wrong.
Right.
Does it fit? If it fits, that's what I want.
Yeah. I've spent quite a few all-nighters making sure that 40 guys don't work 3 hours over, you know? I mean, there's and that's what makes money in what we do.
Change that to 1800 and see how you sleep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we are coming up on that time, and I did kind of want to wrap it up on that. And I was actually having a really interesting conversation, because this is what I'm hearing out of everybody here with Alex Belcafor from McCarthy. It's like there's so many things that all of us are doing up front in technology, right? We're trying to sharpen the tool, make it all better, but it doesn't matter if you're in pre-construction, if you're in VDC and BIM. If operations isn't getting safer, more effective, and we're sending people home better every day and preparing these job sites for safety and for productivity, then we shouldn't be doing it. And we shouldn't be doing this on the front. And we really need to always consider that because, yeah, profitability, like Doug said earlier, the profit is made in the field, but we set the safety up. We set the future up by doing it right from the front. And that's how we can really change this entire industry. And I thought, to wrap up everything here is this group is the dorks. Doug Smith is a dork. I almost want to make you all go around and say, I am dork. Because I wear that badge.
I have to feel that that's got to be painful for Doug.
I won't make him do it. I won't make
tell
him.
you something funny before we get off.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let me get up in front of the
Okay, but before he shows this, I just
Yeah.
want you to know that he went into a filing cabinet. If y'all didn't see that, you got to get the video and look, because I know there's a half of y'all who don't even know.
No,
what
I
that-
saw it. I saw
paper
it.
does still exist. So this is something, I guess I am a dork. So see what this is? Continuous improvement. See the 3D mouth, the design there?
Yeah.
Look at the date on the bottom. Can you read it?
Is that 83?
93.
93. Wow.
Yeah.
Was that the American Revolution?
Yes. Yes. So that was a 3D hookup in a semiconductor plant that I drew in 1993.
Very
In
nice.
3D, 100% 3D, spools to the field. So I guess I am a dork.
The guy knows what he's doing.
Yes.
No doubt.
Hold
Yes. He said it. I am a dork.
I said it.
Well, and we appreciate it. Doug, you really are helping. I can't tell you how many people reached out when we said we were having you on that said, wow, he's the OG. That's going to be awesome. I'm so glad you have him on. And, to OT, when we let people know we were bringing you on, man, you are making waves and doing great things in the industry. And we appreciate both of you guys for joining us today. It's our pleasure to have you on here and call you a part of this movement. So thank you both for joining us.
I'll piggyback off Jeff too. That was the whole point of the post, was to find out those who are making waves, making driving change in the industry. Is let's all unite, right? Let's figure out what we all have the same goal, right? I mean, we've talked a lot over the episodes about the size of the pie in construction and everything. Like we are all fighting the same fight. Like there has to be a way for us all to get better, to make our piece of the pie a little safer, a little more profitable, and to send everybody home a little bit better than they were.
Yeah.
Right.
Well said.
And well said, Travis. And with that, what we'll ask you here from the dorks as we sign out is the only way we get bigger is if you share this with your friends, like us on your favorite platforms, and download and listen to the episodes, because this is our movement together and we want it to grow. With that, we thank you guys for joining us for another fantastic week of the Construction Dorks for I Am Dork. And we are out.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
This, well, all of you can see, but
There it is. Which one did you sign up for?
is there different ones?
Yeah, I think that if you go through your little questionnaire, they give you and then they give you a box. I picked the exceptional, which was all the whiskeys, but I think you can get I think they have a rum, they have a tequila.
I did the exceptional, all the way.
Wait, send them monthly? Is that right?
Every quarter.
We can't do it.
I thought maybe
do it.
Travis
They're
sent that
PA.
to you.
Oh,
No, he just remember
Because he
gave
was
you
like, Travis is my new favorite. And I was like, aw.
Actually, Jeff is my favorite because he signed up under my invite. I got a bottle of whiskey.
Ooh, that's nice. That works.
And it gave me an extra bottle. So I ended up with 2 bottles of whiskey.
Oh,
And
so
then
that's
have
how
you
the
seen
flavors
this?
come out. Yeah.
So Kevin Suhu, he was the poor man's version, because you open it and it has a taster set with 3 different ones, and the top is a coaster, but and then has little coasters in it that describes A, B, and C. So you're supposed to taste
No, the
them
funny
on-
part is I'm looking at it right now and it says BAC for blood alcohol content.
Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
You got it.
That's
Father
sweet.
of the Year award. I had my kids blind pick what I wanted last night and taste test me on it.
Nice. All right. Well, tell me if it acts up again. I'll click some more buttons.
Cool.
Yeah, like North gave me a Surface one time because it's what the PMs use, and yeah, I just ended up giving it to a new PM. I hated that thing. I don't know what.
For what I do, I actually really like it. Our IT guys don't like it because you can't take the hard drive out. So if it takes a shit, all your data's done. But
Yeah, I guess for me it was like it didn't function as a viable tablet, and it also didn't function as a viable computer. It was like the worst of, like, you either want a tablet or a computer, right? I mean, so, yeah, they're not my favorite, but it's.
I love the form factor,
Yeah.
Well, they're small, yeah.
but you're not bimming on it.
No, you ain't bimming. Bimming ain't easy on that bad boy. I can tell you that.
I'd rather go oversized phone myself, I think, at that point. Unless I'm bimming on it, I think I'd rather have oversized phone.
So-
Right. Yep.
But if you need a computer, then iPad sucks as well. So
Yeah, iPad's always been crucial for me. What is that? Is that a green screen? I take it?
oh, he's got a green screen for sure.
That's cool.
I need to do that.
always drink before you like that. There. That's been my day. Right. That's my whole day. It's been
This
that
is-
bullshit.
This is my nightmare.
Oh my gosh. I had like somebody in the middle of like we're doing this giant job. There is literally thousands of spools, and they're like, "Hey, did you know your labels are wrong?" And I'm like, as the PM, before I did thousands of spools, you should have told me my labels are fucking wrong.
Oh my God.
That's my favorite, man, is when
So helpful.
my favorite's when the thing's on site, in the air, in the hangars, and they send me pictures like, "Hey, this isn't right." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And they're like, "Well, what'd you do that for?" And I'm like, "It made it through 13 other people before. Like, I am not the only one you can blame here, my friend." Like,
And you all got drinks and I'm still at work. What the heck?
I know. Well,
You're in
hey,
Texas.
man,
Don't you
everything's
have a
better in
brewery
Texas
somewhere?
except for the time zone.
I thought in Texas you guys drank at work. I didn't understand what I mean.
There's my
Where are you at in Texas?
ball there.
Nice.
That's at Austin.
Nice.
Austin?
Yeah.
I'll be in San Antonio next week.
Oh, the weather's going to be perfect.
I know. Yeah, I'm
Beautiful.
pumped. Yeah, they were supposed to have they put a bunch of fake dead bodies in the river for like Halloween. I don't think they're doing that now, but that's originally why we got the
Man,
ticket.
that's awesome.
They like color it red and put fake dead bodies in there.
That's
Gotta
out
pick
there.
them out from the real ones. That's the game.
Right. If you ever wanted to
Right.
get away with murder, that's about the
Yep. Just nudge someone in. Boop.
feel sorry for that
We're just
cleanup
talking
crew.
about all the things
Right.
that got past different gates, right? Somebody thought that was a good idea, and it kept getting promoted until all of a sudden,
Right.
bodies in the river.
Yeah. Yeah, now it's a big thing. Everybody goes to the Alamo to see a river of like fake dead bodies.